To item 1 on the minutes, from Scala LLC's liquor license approval. And I'd just like to state on the record that we did approve the liquor license for this building, and we approved it to be used in the premise that is currently standing. And when it expands, they will come back to the board for a second time when their project is finished. And I took those notes. I just want to make that amendment.
Did you second it? Yes. Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
Commissioner Lear? Yes.
Great. We don't have any old business. And we don't have any table matters for this meeting. So our first item for this evening is the Peña Hall Restaurant. They're applying for an all-day alcohol license. Is there anybody here to speak on that item?
Make a motion, just hold it off.
I'll second that. We'll move this item towards the end of the agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Lear?
Yeah.
Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
Okay.
And then our second item on the agenda, we have an incident that occurred at Xavier's Place. I'd like to give the mic to Officer Abel Cano.
Good evening, Officer Cano, Lawrence Police. I have a item that was brought before the licensing board regarding an incident that took place at the club known as Xavier's Place. The address for this location is, give me a second, take a look here. 270, is it 270? 241, 247 Lawrence Street. The owner is Mr. Luis Ugal, and the incident took place on July the 31st. At approximately 11:46 hours. I'm going to read from the report itself, if I may.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Officer Brandon Martinez reports from the Lawrence Police Department that he was on duty that night, and he's also here present. On Tuesday the 31st, 2022, at approximately 11:46 hours, he was dispatched to the Lawrence General Hospital for a report of a stabbing victim at Lawrence General Hospital. Officer Potter was working the hospital detail and stated that a male was at Xavier's nightclub. Officers went to Xavier's nightclub earlier in the night at approximately 10:33 for a report of a huge fight with bottles being thrown. The CAT incident report is 2203-6270. Upon officers' arrival at Xavier's, at that time, Officer Brandon Martinez observed broken beer bottles and beer all over the floor. Security at Xavier stated that everyone that was involved in the huge fight had already left the club. Upon arrival, he said he met with the victim, identified as Julio Ibar and his girlfriend, Tracy Soto. Julio Ibar was in the emergency room and was being evaluated by a nurse. Julio's right upper arm was dressed and bandaged. Spoke to him, and he said he was at Xavier's nightclub with his girlfriend on a dance floor when suddenly a fight broke out that they had nothing to do with. Bottles were thrown around the club along with a bunch of other patrons. They left Xavier's to drive home. Once Julio and Tracy got home, they took off the shirt and noticed a gash on his upper right arm, which was bleeding. Tracy told Julio he was going to need stitches, so they drove to the hospital. Tracy and Julio both stated they have no further information. They were in the club when the fight broke out. They went home, noticed the gash, and went to the hospital. At this time, they do not have any information on the suspects. An officer will attempt to view video footage at Xavier's the following day. If no one can view the video footage on the next tour of duty, I will attempt to view the footage. That's the end of the report.
Thank you. Captain Delaney, do you have any comments on this?
No comments from Inspection Services.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, could we please hear from the...
Good evening, Commissioners. Attorney Brian Corrigan, 122 Chestnut Street, Andover, Mass. On behalf of the owner of the establishment in question, Xavier's Place, Inc., and with me tonight is the owner, Louis Yagal. Mr. Yagal has been in business here in Lawrence for almost 20 years at Xavier's Place. Of course, owning a nightclub and running a nightclub in Lawrence is not an easy task. There have been, on occasion over the years, a few incidents, nothing from my research since 2012. If anyone is aware of anything, please correct me, although actually I strike that. There was one COVID citation back during the height of the pandemic, but otherwise, in terms of safety regulations and maintenance of the property, there's been no issues at all now for over 10 years. On the night in question, Mr. Yagal had a professional security team in place. The ex-FRA security team, also known as Kiefer Security. Although this is a relatively small establishment, there were 5 security officers present on this evening. 2 at the door, screening the patrons, and then 3 on the inside, strategically placed to monitor the activity and to make sure that incidents such as the one that arose that night didn't get out of hand. And it is my understanding that the security team did their job properly. There were no weapons involved in this incident because the patrons were properly screened at the door. And immediately upon this fight ensuing, the security team handled the incident and escorted those individuals involved out the door. What happened to Mr. Ibar, I have no idea. I have not seen the video footage. I'm not aware if anyone has seen the video footage. I would ask through the commission if Officer Cano or Officer Martinez could comment on that when I'm finished with my initial presentation. But if there was any evidence that somebody acted violently towards Mr. Ibar, I would certainly like to see what evidence there is. It is very strange to me that someone would leave an establishment and then discover, an hour or so later that all of a sudden he's been stabbed. I don't know what happened to Mr. Ibar, but I do not believe that anything involving a weapon happened to Mr. Ibar in my client's establishment. I will also point out for the commission a couple of additional things. First of all, to support my comments that my client takes his security very, very seriously. There was a very less concerning incident earlier this year in which Lawrence Police Department responded to the scene. It may have been Officer Martinez who was involved, and recommended that Mr. Yagal consider having a detail present. And he has reached out to the police department on a couple of occasions, but has not been able to secure a detail. But he does want to have a detail at his establishment, just as additional security over and above the 5-man security team that he has on busy weekend evenings. I'd ask the commission to take that into consideration. I hope that one of the officers here can corroborate that statement that I just made. I'll also point out the law on this subject, and I'm going to cite for you, and I have copies for the commissioners to take with you tonight, the Bally's decision from 2016. The reason I'm so familiar with that decision is because I represented the city in that case in front of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. Back in 2016, there was a terrible incident at the Bally's restaurant in which a patron came in and shot another patron in the bathroom. The security team at Bally's was not frisking anyone at that time, did not prevent the weapon from coming in the door. As a result, one of the patrons was killed. The city suspended the license for 5 days, with 3 to be served and 2 held in abeyance. And the ABCC reversed that decision. And in a nutshell, what the ABCC said was that the proprietor is not responsible for everything that happens inside the establishment. What the proprietor is responsible for is maintaining an adequate level of security, making sure that foreseeable harm is addressed before it escalates into real harm, making sure that patrons are not over-intoxicated at any particular time. In the case of Bally's, the ABCC found that a 2-man security team on a very busy weekend night was sufficient, and that supported the patron's claim that he should not have to suffer punishment for that incident. I would say that in this particular case, the 5-man security team that Mr. Yagal employs on busy weekend evenings is adequate security. And in this particular case, I don't know what more he could have done to prevent the incident that occurred. His team responded properly. The police were called immediately, and the incident was diffused very quickly. With that, commissioners, I will ask through the commission that the representatives from the police department be questioned on these couple of issues that I've raised: the security footage, whether there was any evidence of a violent act occurring involving Mr. Ibar, the level of security present that evening, which I think Officer Martinez could probably speak to, and generally whether my client did anything wrong that evening, because I can't see what he could have done any differently to prevent this particular incident.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. If you don't mind, before I ask you any questions, we speak to the officer first, and then I'll come back to you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Officer Martinez, please.
Good evening, Officer Martinez, Lawrence Police Department. So regarding the videotape, I believe detectives went to Xavier's, they viewed the videotape, so he should be able to speak about that. I didn't see the videotape, but I know detectives have. Regarding security, yeah, they had security there. A huge fight's gonna happen. I don't think security's gonna be able to stop that, so don't really have much else to say.
Do you have any other questions for him?
You saw security there.
There was security.
How many?
I saw at least 4.
How was the inside of the building?
Packed, beer bottles all over the floor, beer spilt all over the floor, but it was still packed with patrons, music blasting.
Okay, thank you. He said there was a video. And
Detectives are doing the investigation.
I look at it two ways. One, he's responsible. Another way, he can't control everything that happens there. From my understanding, when I was a police officer, this place was always in trouble. Basically a gang place. From what I understand, it's changed. His clientele might not be the best clientele in the world to cause him to lose his license. I'm not out to hurt anybody, but I wanted to stop. So I want to know what precautions he's going to take. Is this a reputable security firm that he's got? Are they bonded and things like that?
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner Laird, Mr. Yagal's been in business almost 20 years. He has had a few different security teams over the years. In fact, he discharged this particular team after this incident because he was not satisfied with the level of service he was getting. But he hires people that are professional. I'm not familiar with the licensing and permitting requirements for security teams. Perhaps Officer Cano can help me with that, but I do believe that this particular security team was a licensed, experienced team. And again, I think they did their jobs. Unfortunately, they didn't prevent this particular incident. What I would ask of the commission is to consider giving my client a warning for this particular incident, and perhaps requiring that on busy weekend nights that he have a detail. And he would like to have a detail to add to the security measures that are already in place.
From what I understand, police used to do deals with a lot of clubs. I don't think they're doing them anymore.
Okay, well, maybe that's why you can't get a response from the LPD.
I'm not saying they don't do it, but a lot of police officers don't want to do it because they get hurt just as fast as his customers can.
Understandable.
Officer Cano.
So I wanted just to make reference to the fact that we have to try and make sure that we keep a safer environment for the clients and also the employees at the club. I'm sure Mr. Ibar is there during the night as well, so it's his safety as well. It's important always to call right away, and it's always good measure to make sure that security system is in play. That way we can refer to any issues that may come up as an investigatory process. Again, I'm not opposed to giving him a warning, considering, you know, it's been some time since the last incident, and I just hope that we can kind of quell this situation so that these incidences don't continue. It's sometimes things not avoidable, but we definitely want people to be able to go out to our establishments in the city and enjoy themselves with their family and friends. So I don't have anything further.
Captain Delaney? Director Romano?
No, nothing to add, thank you.
I do have a question for Captain Delaney. I see that the total occupancy for Xavier's Place is 160. Have there been any violations with occupancy?
Not to my knowledge. We've done inspections in there in the past, and they've always complied.
Thank you. Commissioner Laird?
I'll make a motion that we give him a warning, but it's the second time, it's not going to be a warning. There's no need to do this. I know it's not always his fault, but make a motion, we give him a warning this time.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Lair, promotion to give a warning. How do you vote on that, Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioners.
thank you.
Thank you, officers, too.
The second item on,
Commissioner,
yes. Yeah,
would you give me a moment just to speak to Officer Martinez for a minute?
please. Okay, great. So I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda. It's an entertainment multi-service 7-day license. Do we have somebody from 879 Barbershop and Multi-Services present? Thank you. Sí. Yo te puedo traducir, pero me tiene que hablar al pasito para que yo entiendan.
Okay, okay.
So he just asked if I can translate. I said yes, that he just needs to speak slowly so that I can do this. Por favor, dígame su nombre y la razón por cuál está aquí.
Alinson
Please give me your name and please tell me the reason why you're here.
Mi nombre es Alinson Pimentel. La razón por la que yo estoy aquí es porque quiero que me den un permiso para yo poder poner una mesa de dominó y un tablero para uno poder de vez en cuando entretenerse ahí en el barber shop.
Pause. I'm here today. My name's Alison. And I'm applying for an entertainment license so that I can put a couple domino tables outside of my establishment so that we can, inside the establishment, so 2 domino tables inside the establishment.
Sigo.
Thank you.
Cuando uno no tiene nada que hacer, uno quiere que te entretenerse. Y cuando no hay cliente en la barbería, uno en veces se ponía a jugar dominó. Yo tenía una mesa ahí, la tumbé, la quité porque me dijeron que no era permitido, que era ilegal, ¿entiendes? Entonces por eso procedí a...
Yeah. So he's saying when we don't have any clients, it's good to have dominoes tables present. And he recently took them down and applied for a license to have them there because they were told that he wasn't supposed to do that in his establishment. Thank you. Officer, wait, do you have questions? Officer Cano?
Okay, so this address brings me some memories back to an issue sometime during the pandemic where we did respond based on illegal gambling. I know that the city inspectors responded as well, and we identified everyone and had them clean up and clear up the place. Since then, they were able to regain a business license. They were running a covert operation in the basement area with all kinds of cameras and things like that, and gambling. So, again, it just depends on if they can, as far as I'm concerned, if they can get their proper licenses for something that's within legal limits for them to operate, I don't have a problem with that. But that's the reason why this issue and this address comes to mind.
Thank you. Captain Dilly,
Nothing from the fire department.
Director Armano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did meet with Mr. Martinez in Inspectional Services. We had a conversation about this use. It seems like this is a hybrid use of a barber shop and entertainment. So Mr. Martinez was instructed that it would be something that would need to go through the zoning board as a special permit. I believe it was the zoning board or planning board. For a special permit for entertainment, we had a conversation also with the acting director of planning, Mr. Dan McCarthy, who's on board with this procedure. So once it goes through those boards, it would be commissioned by the building commissioner as, again, that hybrid use. With regards to what type of activity is going on, of course, it has to be legal activity. People today with businesses have many creative ways of luring in business to really just to increase the economic benefit, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just has to go through the proper procedures to do that. So we didn't get into details. We did have a conversation, and I'm sure more details will come out during the zoning or planning board meeting once it's discussed what type of use this will be. Things like whether there's parking requirements or any other requirements by the building commission, those will be brought up at that meeting as well.
I have a question, Mike. Do we have there's still a lot of other meetings that need to happen and that need, like, things that need to be approved for this entertainment license?
Yeah, based on our initial research, it looks like the primary pathway is through this board, the licensing board, and again, through the special permitting process. So it was suggested that the applicant at least start the process with this board. Whether he has more details, of course, commissioners, you have the right to ask more details about what this operation will look like, but I would assume that this would also take place during the special permit process as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Mike, if we approve this license, the zoning board and the audience is gonna let them have it, more or less?
That is not necessarily correct. It has to be approved by both you, and it also needs a special permit. So if there's something wrong on that level, obviously both boards have different interests and different things that they may consider, and that's what the process is about.
See, my big thing is, I don't want to approve a license if the zoning and audience is against it already, or didn't approve it yet. I would think more or less on the table, maybe table in this matter until it gets through ordinance or zoning.
Just a note on that, in the past, when something does have to go through two boards, in theory, that board could do the same thing and table it, waiting for this board to make a decision. So it gets, sometimes frustrating for the applicants. So in the interest, my friendly suggestion would be in the interest of moving things along for the applicant. Of course, if you wanted to research it more and table this until that time, I think that could also be appropriate, but I wouldn't necessarily do it just waiting on another board.
Yeah. So I'll translate this, pero la carga anteriores son serias. No debe de tener, obvio, y tú lo sabes eso, que no debe de tener negocios ilegales en tu negocio legal. So I'm saying the charges previously, why he had to take down entertainment there are serious and that he shouldn't be running. He knows this in a legal business and his legal business, because obviously it doesn't make sense. What I will do, because we could face going back and forth, porque puede ser que la otra mesa diga que el otro board diga que nosotros tenemos que decidir, etcétera. I'd like to make a motion to approve this entertainment license. Sí quiero hacer una moción para aprobar esta licencia bajo el requisito que sabe que nosotros estamos pendientes a lo que está sucediendo en su negocio. I'd like to make a motion to approve this entertainment license under the premise that he knows that we understand where his business is and that we will be aware if anything's happening.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to it.
Please do. I second it. No, please make an amendment.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to it, that we approve the license, but if the city ordinance and the other bones don't go through, we rescind the license.
Okay. Él quiere hacer un cambio a lo que yo dije, que sí queremos aprobar la licencia, pero solo si los otros grupos de la ciudad lo aprueban. Go ahead, Mike. Abel, sorry.
Commissioner, just in light of, because I don't know if this person was the person who was owning the establishment before, or I'm not sure if this individual is the same one that owned the previous one. I know we've been there within the last 2 months to re-inspect the property. They were compliant, they allowed us to see it, but I think that if it would be within good reason to ask that we, meaning the city, can go and inspect the property at any reasonable time, just to check on it on a consistent basis to make sure that things are within compliance. I would appreciate that, just so that we don't have reoccurrence of the last issue, if it's possible.
I'll add that to our motion also, that the license be approved, provided that the city ordinance and everything agree upon it. If it does not, it gets rescinded. While the license has been approved, the agents of the Lawrence Police Department go in and check it during operating hours.
¿Usted entendió eso? Ok. Que vamos a aprobar la licencia bajo el requisito que la ciudad, el departamento de policía y las personas aquí presentes pueden ir a su negocio a ver y a chequear que todo está bien y asegurándonos que sí está haciendo los negocios legales. That was the summary. So I would like
It's
to...
only 2 dominoes table, no
Yeah.
more than 2.
Yeah, only 2 domino tables, yeah. I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Lear put a motion to approve the license for 2 dominoes table, and a second by Commissioner Morales. Commissioner Lear, how do you vote on this? Yes. Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
Motion pass. Congratulations.
Madam Chair, can I just, a point of clarification for the applicant, and we have discussed this, but just to say it again, this approval of the license does not mean that you can operate with the 2 tables today. You still have to go through the special permit process and get the occupancy recommissioned by the building commissioner for both a barber shop and an entertainment.
Sí. So, lo que acabamos de aprobar hoy no significa que pueden ir a jugar dominó en la barbería ahora, porque necesitamos que los otros boards, el zoning, también los otros requisitos pasen para que pueda hacerlo. So, no saque esa mesa de dominó. Thank you.
Gracias.
And then we have the Flavor Fusion Fest. If you can please come up to the stand. Thank you. Hello, can you please state your name for the record and why you're here?
There's Chef Amil Cargonel from Flavor Fusion Fest, Chef Pamela Gonel. We are the board of the Flavor Fusion Fest. We have to postpone the date for the event because of the pub we built in Dominican Republic and it's not here yet. So it's a few requirements, a good requirement for the community safety and for us for that pub. Maybe those requirements take more than 40 days and it was impossible to do the festival. We don't want to do the festival without the Guinness World Records because it's good for the city and for the community. In that way, we're trying to do for May 2023. Fire department knows a lot of information about that, and Mr. Mike too. So we just want to know what's the next step because we need the license for the next year. So that's why.
Thank you. Officer Cano, do we have any comments on this?
I think that just as he was going about the process, just continue asking for the permit and then just going through the permit process. It's kind of an automatic system where you apply and then everyone checks off. And he'll have to go through the same procedures, figuring out about details and days, time, kind of entertainment you're gonna have, things like that, and where the area is gonna be. Always, consideration is weather, so that might be a little bit too soon, might be too cold, so those are things that you need to consider. But it's just getting the permitting process, and now that everything's online, I think that's the way you should start.
Thank you. Captain Delaney?
Good evening. The fire department is very supportive of the event. We've been assisting the applicant, and we look forward to it.
Director Armano?
Thank you. Just for purposes of this board, thank you for continuing to work hard with this event. This is taking a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's a massive event. We're very excited about it. For purposes of expediting and making it a little bit easier, my only recommendation to the board would be if there was a time frame, if the board felt it was appropriate to just a window of time instead of having to keep coming back to this board for the exact date. We would be happy to, of course, adjust the application with whatever date we decide on. And I want to just reiterate, I think I've said this before, we're working very, very closely with this group. It's a city supported event, so we were meeting on a weekly basis, and we're working sort of as a team to make sure that everything is happening in a safe manner.
Thank you. Commissioner Laird, do you have any comments?
My only question is, you want to hold this off until May now?
Yes, we think it's appropriate to have it on May because of the time. We want to comply with all the permits and everything that we need to do in regards of the pod and the safety for the fire and everything.
Mr. Amano, is there any problem holding this license open till May?
I don't think there's any issue. I certainly don't have any issues with it. I would recommend that we open it up to a window, whatever the applicants and my colleagues here feel is appropriate, whether it be open any time before August, whatever this board feels appropriate. Just some flexibility so that we don't have to keep coming back to the board, I think would be very appropriate.
So we can, another question, we can keep this license open until like before August of 2023.
I believe you as the board have the complete discretion with a one-day license.
I'll make a motion that we approve it until May, and if there's any changes, you have to come back and let us know so we can extend it.
I will second that.
Commissioner Laird, put a motion to approve the license in the open window for the next event next year. And second by Commissioner Morales. Commissioner Laird, how do you vote? Yes. Commissioner Morales?
Yes.
Motion pass.
And then our last item of the evening, I'm not sure if we have anybody from the Peña Hall and Restaurant here with us. Hi. Thank you. For the record, can you please state your name and the reason why you're here?
Hector Monroy. It's the first time I'm doing this. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared, but trying to get permission for a liquor license for one day. We're doing, can't say get together, a Guatemalan Independence Party for the Guatemalans here in Lawrence. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know exactly what I need to do, but whatever you guys ask me to, I'll do.
Thank you. Officer Cano?
As far as, I don't have any questions.
Captain Delaney?
The fire department is familiar with the space. It is a safe building, and if allowed, the fire department will do an inspection of the premises before.
Thank you. Director Armano?
Not really too many other comments. Inspectional services and the building commission has been in the space. It is appropriate for this type of activity.
I don't have any questions.
Where is 272 Broadway exactly?
Tremont and Broadway?
Okay, Punto Final, okay.
Put the final.
Now that's not open no more, Punto Final?
No, it's been closed for a while.
Tells you how far I go across the river.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this one-day license.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morales, put a motion to approve that one-day liquor license, and is second by Commissioner Laird. Commissioner Morales, how do you vote on this?
Yes.
Commissioner Laird?
Yes.
Motion passed. Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. We need to set, should we do that once we adjourn the meeting or after?
I think you have, you can do it before you adjourn, set the next meeting. I think you may have done that. There's notes in the agenda that we have 21st, September 21st. So we're gonna, okay, so September 21st will be the next meeting. Antonia has that.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.